Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that lemon light city, sweet home Chicago. 224, 446. Come on, baby, now get your business fixed. Come on.
Hi there, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show with the greatest cameraman in the business today, Sonny Hersh, and your host, Avi Meyers.
Avi Meyers here, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine. I want to thank my entire technical crew, Sonny Hersh. He and I together produce this. I want to make sure that you check out your local community policing meetings by going to caps24.org. Sonny is the chairman of the District Advisory Committee for the 24th District. And you can check all the stuff you need to find out about the show, upcoming guests at ntnm.org. And after we're on in Chicago, Evanston, in 30 or 35 northwest suburbs, the shows are available the day after the suburbs on the internet through YouTube, which you can find through our website. And in the very few months that we've been doing this, over 10,000 individual shows have been watched. Don't you people have something better to do? I do thank you, and I appreciate it. And by the way, it's a lot more than 10,000. I just don't want to keep saying new numbers all the time. I can't get the calculator out in total. It's almost scary. It is a pleasure and privilege to have the state's attorney of Cook County, somebody who's a resident of our neighborhood and a very good neighbor, and in his third term, and we'll let him tell you, even though you probably know, you've read the newspaper already. We're talking about Cook County State's Attorney Dick Devine. How are you?
I'm good, Avi. Good to be with you.
First of all, my pleasure, and thank you so much for coming, and we do appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah, you actually, compared to other people, I don't ask how you get here on a given day, but so many people, have drivers that come here and all the rest of it. I've actually seen you walking here and walking back.
I can do it. It's that close to our house. Yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, but it also goes to show that we have a Yiddish word called mensch, which means you're a true gentleman and you don't stand on the circumstance and pomp and ceremony and all that. So I think that's also a very good thing.
Thank you.
Now, you're obviously not running for re-election. I mean, even though that this is a job that'd be yours anytime you wanted it, your popularity is such that there wouldn't even be any challenge.
Well, thanks for saying that. But it'll be 12 years, and talked with the family, and 64 years old now, so we've decided that now would be a good time to get back maybe into private practice and build up the nest egg for those years down the road. But I've enjoyed it. It's been a wonderful job. The men and women in the Cook County State's Attorney's Office are just great parts of our community, and they work very hard to do the right thing for the people of Cook County, so it's been a true privilege to lead the office for all these years.
And you certainly got everybody's respect, or anybody who's actually intelligent and paying attention.
Well, thank you.
Of course, there's no such thing when you're in public of having 100% approval.
No. If Mother Teresa ran, 20% would vote against her. So.
Oh, that's true.
So I've been very fortunate with the people I've worked with and the political support that I've had. So I appreciate that. It's been a great run, and now we'll try and do something else.
Now, it's been, I was reading, I didn't really, it's funny because I actually know some of the people who were in the firm you were in. I had no idea that now this is going back, about 25 years when you were in private practice or whatever?
No, just 96 when I ran for state's attorney. I was in private practice when I ran, so up till 1996 I was in private practice.
But weren't you an assistant state's attorney before? Weren't you the chief assistant to Mayor Daley?
From 1980 to 1983, but from 83 to 96, I was back in private practice.
Now, were you with? I guess it was. I saw Shefsky, Lloyd, and Devine. That was the firm you were with, or
it was Shefsky, Freilich, and Devine.
Oh, Freilich, I should know better.
Yeah.
See, it's interesting. I didn't know you were with that firm because Lloyd Shefsky is somebody I've actually dealt with.
No, Lloyd's a fine guy.
Yeah, he is. When I used to run Jewish Chicago as a monthly, he was really big on the American Israel Chamber of Commerce and buying Israeli goods and all the rest of it.
Oh, sure.
And I used to run a monthly, his office used to supply monthly information about Israeli products and goods and all that we used to run in the Jewish Chicago magazine.
Oh, sure.
And I've even got a plaque from him, in the house. That it's funny because I hauled it out to show Larry Suffredin, who I guess is a partner in that
Larry's
firm.
a partner at Shefsky, yes. And Lloyd's a great guy. I thoroughly enjoyed my time there, but the opportunity to run for state's attorney, and I talked to the people over there, and they understood. So I think most of them thought I wasn't going to win, so just let him have his lark, and he'll come back and practice law. Turned out I won.
You were way behind in the polls. I mean, it wasn't even funny. You did that to me is like you were over 30 points behind in the polls.
It was just a few weeks out.
Yeah.
It shows people should not believe the polls and just go out and keep working, and you never know what's going to happen. I guess one of the impacts of my race is no one ever drops out now, no matter how far behind they are, because they all think, I can win it, and maybe they can.
I mean, I knew you Mally from the neighborhood, but I figured you're the good guy. Everybody likes you. Everybody respects you. And you know, it was like, okay, well, I always believe in supporting the good guy, win, lose, or draw. And it's like I was so shocked when you actually won.
You weren't alone, Avi, but you were very kind in '96. There were a lot of people that weren't right out there.
Actually, I'd like to think that I have very good taste in these things.
Well, I appreciate that. I think you do.
So thank you. Now let's just talk. You know, let's get the politics out of the way first, and then we can talk about other issues. There is like a swarm of people that want your job, and the funny thing is, when I was reading, and I don't want to get into specific money figures, but when you were talking about how some of the first-year guys coming out of law school make more money than the Cook County State's Attorney. Yeah. I mean, wow.
Yeah, that's true though. If you graduate from a law school and go to one of the big firms, your salary is higher than the state's attorney. More important, though, really, is that it's substantially higher than our first chairs out at 26th Street, some of whom have 50, 60, 70 jury trials under their belt, know the laws of evidence and how to present a case better than just about anybody. And this first-year law graduate is making more. That's the fact of life, and it's just private side versus public side. But it just shows the value that the people of Cook County are getting with the assistance we have.
Yeah, I actually had a chance to, you know, it was actually a little before you were on the show the last time. I actually had an opportunity to be on a jury in December last year.
Oh, okay. And
it was really a silly trial. I mean, this as it turned out, the judge, this guy was caught shoplifting $11 worth of items from Walgreens. And there were 3 eyewitnesses and 7 cameras detailing what he had done, and he spent something like a couple of months in Cook County Jail awaiting trial, okay, for $11. And the funny thing is, I mean, it's not so funny, is he actually did pull the jury trial the time before, and the judge told us afterwards that he had 30 priors, and when he pulled it with the jury the time before, the jury let him off, which she couldn't believe, and she really thanked us, and she gave us this nice little certificate, which was very nice of her. But it was very cool, and thank God it was only a day. I don't think I could have handled one trial. But it was very interesting to see the process, and it was also interesting to see the play between the state's attorney and the judge. And now the public defender is not your side of that's a separate office?
Separate office, and they are on the other side of the equation. They don't handle all cases. They handle ones where the defendant can't afford a lawyer, but in about 40% of the cases, a private defense counsel will handle the matter.
Now, just to finish up the political side, and then we can talk about the state's attorney's office.
Okay.
There's a slew of people running, including, I believe, 1 or 2 people from your office right now.
Who've expressed interest. There are people who've talked about it but haven't formally announced that they're running yet.
Yeah. So, I mean, are you gonna sit back and watch everything? Is there somebody you have in mind that you'd like to see be the next state's attorney? Or?
Well, my primary thing is to be supportive of people who want to carry on the professionalism that we've established in the office. That's the main thing I'm looking for, Avi, and I think there are 2, 3, maybe 4 candidates who fit that bill. We'll see who actually announces and how it sorts out, but my primary purpose is to make sure that the professionalism of the office continues.
Now, that sounds good. Now, what are the contributions that you feel you've made?
Well, I think there are several things that we've started and would like to see continued. I think through the hiring and the training and the supervision, we have a very professional approach to prosecution. I'm very proud that every decision we've made has been based on the evidence in the case and not any political agenda. But as far as specifics, creating the domestic violence unit in our office, which is nationally recognized now, reforming the juvenile justice system so that thousands of cases that formerly went through court are now being taken out to the community where mediators work with young people and try and get them back on the right track. The diversion programs that we have created and dramatically expanded for drug possession. Thousands of people who otherwise would have been in the criminal system now have an opportunity to get out of the drug life and get on the right track. We also have emphasized prosecuting the drug dealers, and we work with the Chicago Police Department on strategies such as street corner conspiracies that goes after the major drug dealers, and we've had great success at that. Cold case prosecutions, the Kenneth Hansen for the Peterson-Schuessler murders, 50 years after the fact, successful.
Which was super.
Absolutely. Great work by our people. Harry Alleman, the hitman for the mob, successfully prosecuted. And Juan Luna for the first part of the Brown's Chicken case that I participated in as well. Those kinds of things. But as a general matter, we have great people in the office. I'm proud to have been their leader.
That sounds good. And I know you have their respect. That I know.
Well, I appreciate it.
And let me ask you, how you prosecuted that case. I mean, besides for all the, you just being the state's attorney alone has got to be a workload and a half times 3. Yeah. But you actually took. Is this something you feel you had to do? Is it something that?
Well, I did it a few years ago, and my background is as a litigator, trial lawyer, so I actually enjoy the courtroom. And it's nice in itself, but it's also nice to get away from the phones and the meetings for a while. This case probably went on about 5.5 weeks, which is a little longer than is good to be away, but I would get a lot of the work done in the evening after court and early in the morning before court. So it was a very worthwhile experience to work with the victims' families and to work with some of the outstanding trial lawyers we have in the office, and just to be part of the process again.
Yeah, I guess it does. And did it help refresh you in terms of seeing how things? Did it get you back to the basics that maybe you felt you needed to in order to keep?
Yeah, I think so. I think it reminds you of the challenges that our prosecutors have, and victim witness personnel, investigators. So you don't get too far removed from the process. It allows you to keep in touch with what people do. It shows you what happens in the courtroom and some of the challenges there. So it's good to do that periodically. I try and visit some of the courtrooms, but to actually be part of it is a very special way to look at it. So it's good.
I also have to figure that since you, at that time, I guess you were in office already 9-10 years, that you felt you had enough continuity, I guess, with your assistants that they could, do at least part of the work that you'd ordinarily do during that time.
Oh, we have great supervisors, Bob Milan and Anita Alvarez, who are right below me, are people I've worked with for years and have a lot of faith and confidence in. So there was a bit of that. Yeah, the understanding that people could pick up a little bit of what you did. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Before I forget, speaking of people who work for you, I do want to thank Mike Berry specifically, who's always been so great to work with.
Mike's a good man.
And, we've been working with him for years. He's great to stay in touch with. He's 100% reliable, dependable, a really good guy. Matter of fact, one of the things that I didn't even think about when you were stepping down is, wow, what's he going to do for a living?
I think Mike does his... Oh, me or Mike?
No, Mike. And actually, I asked Mike.
Yeah.
I asked Mike because I have never met him. So
yeah.
he told me that he was basically he was going to retire anyway at some point. And he thinks that I shouldn't really speak for him on the air.
Yeah, right, Mike.
But because Mike, you know what? Make Mike a really good offer now and grab him. This guy's really good.
He's very good. He's a good man. Very solid man.
So anyway, but I just like to I think it's important to, because people don't realize, for instance, everybody was running late today. You don't see what happens; you just see the camera stuff. But all the guests who were here prior, we were doing actually 4 different shows today, and everybody's coming from downtown, and the outer drive was a total mess.
It was.
Also first day back from school, so everybody's calling me, really freaking out. I'm running late, blah, blah, blah. But everybody was running the same late because they were taking the same outer drive.
Yeah, right, so it worked out.
And by the way, your office, and I don't remember the name of the woman who called, but I couldn't pick up the phone then because we were actually filming the show with Jim Nally.
Yeah.
Who didn't he used to work in the State's Attorney's office at one time, or?
I don't know that Jim did, but I know...
Might have been the Attorney General's office.
I think it was the Attorney General's office. Jim's another great guy, though.
Definitely. And... But you know what? A woman called, and she called 3 times. And when I did get the message finally, It was basically he's running late and blah, 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 and I'll try to find another number to get a hold of you. But she really, you could tell she really was trying because the phone kept ringing while the, people are going to hear it during Jim's interview. All the...
We're sorry for that.
And my choice, I sort of turn it lower and it's like a distinctive kind of music. It's not this annoying shrill.
Oh, okay, well that's good.
So, it's this calm classical music. It won't bother
that's
the
good.
fans
Jim won't be too upset with me yet.
Well, plus Jim's a really good guy.
He is.
So, you did a lot of fighting earlier this year, and I mean that in a good way, over the county budget
right.
and some of the problems that were being faced. Because it was interesting because it's hard to think about some of the intricate doings in the state's attorney's office. But the fact is that people weren't even going to get cost of living increases at a time when people on the outside make so much more.
Yeah, I think the thing that really became the problem, Abby, was that the people who join our office understand they're not going to make as much as the private practice side. Some of them eventually go to that, but they want to be prosecutors, and they'll take that. But when it turned out, when the dust settled on the budget, that public defenders who were in the same courtrooms as prosecutors and paid by the same source were making $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 more, that really rankled, and it really upset people, and it started to seriously affect morale. So we made a strong pitch to the county board that the cost of living had to be for everybody. It couldn't just be for one group and not for another group, especially when they're working in the same environment. It creates major issues of morale, and it was a long fight, but eventually about 6 weeks ago, the county board did find funds in order to give our attorneys pay parity with the public defenders.
I'm glad to hear that. I have been following it, definitely, and as a matter of fact, I saw you on Chicago Tonight, which I rarely watch, but when I heard you were on, I figured I'll watch.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So, no, you spoke the case very well, and it can't be easy either because you're talking about infighting within the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but, you owe, we ask a lot of our prosecutors and investigators and victim witness people, you owe it to them that they be treated fairly, and they deserve that, so I really didn't have any hesitation at all standing up and saying, this is something that should be done, it's the right thing to do, and we can't continue this discrimination in pay.
No, I'm with you all the way, and I don't want you to get in any trouble over this, but me, myself, and I, who actually endorse people both on the air and in Jewish Chicago, I mean, I came out for the other guy in the Cook County election, which, by the way, was very scary, because he is a different individual. But I just couldn't see... I'm not going to say anything bad. So I think people at home get the idea.
I think they figured it out, yeah.
Yeah, because they actually, it's funny because I actually, when we did a live show, but, one of the things people may not know, when he did a live election show during an off year for the state's attorney's election one year, you came downtown with Jim Nally and myself, and you hosted a live show, or you co-hosted a live show, which, by the way, if you ever have something, nothing better to do on one of those days in the future, you're more than welcome to come downtown with us again. That was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. I'd love to.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Absolutely. And so how many people are actually in the States? How many lawyers do you have? What kind of roster is there involved?
Well, we're one of the largest law firms around. We have 900 lawyers in our office. We're the second largest prosecutor's office in the country, behind Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's the only court system that's larger. So.
Yeah, in fact, the court system may not be, but the prosecutor's office is. It's about 50 more than we are, but we're right up there. And we have a full investigative staff that works on the cases that come in, victim witness personnel and administrative people. So the total office is about 1,650 people.
And which is quite a bit. But let me ask you, too, one of the things that I wasn't even thinking about, let's say you actually had a shortage of people. I mean, what happens then? I mean, you were talking about it at the time, but I think it's interesting to bring it up again. I mean, what happens to the system?
Well, as happened in the past couple of years, the county board reduced our budget and reduced personnel. We lost 100 people in the last budget, about half of them prosecutors, so we lost 50, and then investigators and others. And the work doesn't stop. And even though the crime rates are down somewhat, the number of cases we have is as high as it's ever been, primarily because the crime rates don't measure the drug cases, and we have those drug cases coming in. So it just means that fewer people have to do the work. That means they have heavier caseloads, and that means especially when they're taking the heavier caseloads and they look across the courtroom and see that public defender making more, at some point some good people say, you know, I love this job, but enough is enough. So we lost some good people along the way before we were able to get the cost of living added back. And one of the issues that I keep forgetting about is that the public really doesn't, because most of them aren't involved, thank God, in the criminal justice system, see what people do. But it's so important that the victims of crime and their families have professionals they can turn to prosecute these cases. I was just reminded of it through the Browns cases. 6 families that lost loved ones, and that's back many, many years ago now, 16, 17 years ago, and they still feel the pain of the loss of their loved one today. So these families deserve the best that we can give them. It's not just a theory, it's not just something out there and remote. It's very real to the people who are involved, and it can happen anywhere. Palatine's a very nice community, but you have 6 families that lost loved ones up there.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing, though, that justice was done.
Absolutely. And it was done only because we had good investigators and good prosecutors, good victim witness people that worked very hard to see that it was done.
Now, not to get you into too much trouble, but since you're not running for re-election,
go ahead.
Okay, you have a very unique perspective right now. I mean, first of all, you've worked private, you've worked public, you were a chief assistant in the role. What kind of changes would you like to see in the criminal justice system in order to make things work smoothly, more fairly, and what kind of things should we as a people, a country, what would you like to see change?
Well, I think one of the major things that most prosecutors have come to see is that in the drug area, for people who are picked up for possession of drugs, we should focus on treatment and diversion programs with the threat of prosecution over their heads so they'll participate in those programs. We need substantially more money to do that. It's a great investment. These programs work. The recidivism rate for people who come out of our drug school is about 11% compared to 55 and 60% for people who don't participate.
Wow.
So it's a wonderful investment
That's
for
huge.
all of us. Absolutely. And that all translates into money when you talk about recidivism, impact on the criminal justice system. So that's one thing. I think we need more funds for training of prosecutors and other parts of the criminal justice system. We have DNA today, which is a very complex science which didn't exist 15, 20 years ago. And so much of our identification procedure is now going to be based on DNA and the issues surrounding DNA. Prosecutors have to master that. We need funds on the defense side, and I've been supportive of this, to make sure that defense attorneys, especially in capital cases, have the resources to hire experts, to hire investigators, to have whatever specifics they need. The death penalty system has to be one where resources are available so that the process for getting at the truth can work at its maximum, and that's only if both sides have these kinds of things. So those are just a few things off the top of my head that I'd like to see over the course of the next few years, Avi.
Yeah, I very much.
Let me add one
Go
thing.
ahead, please.
One thing that I think is absolutely vital for the people of Illinois, we should decide whether we want to have the death penalty or not. I've been saying that for years. The idea of having the death penalty on the books, but have a moratorium where no one is ever sure if it's ever going to be implemented, leaves everybody up in the air. The families of victims come to us and say, what are you going to do? And if it's appropriate, we'll seek the death penalty, but we can't tell them that it will ever be used. If the will of the state of Illinois is not to have it, we should debate that in the legislature. The legislature should act. If we get rid of it, then we get rid of it. But if we're going to have it, we should have it as a meaningful part of our criminal justice system.
I agree with you. As a matter of fact, for a short time, what I think that also applies to a lot of other things, to be honest with you. I mean, even things like abortion. And I don't want to get you in any trouble here, but I don't believe in abortion myself. I also don't feel that it's the government's domain. So to me, I mean, my idea, I'm not running for office ever, so I'm not in trouble, but my idea would be let people do whatever they want, but if the government stays out, that also means the government doesn't fund it at all. Okay, it doesn't prosecute it, it doesn't fund it, the government stays out of it. You know, let private people do it. And but the point, I guess I went the long way and I probably took the wrong issue. But the fact is that I think the idea of actually settling things, because seeing the same debate over decades, I mean, people argue the same thing. Okay, we get a little bit to the right in the Supreme Court, the stuff goes to the right. We get a little bit of left in the Supreme Court, the stuff goes to the left. Rather than have some kind of consistent, that nobody's shooting for an end to any of this. I think much of the fighting is so needless in society that I really like to see, you know, okay, let's make a decision as a society. Let's understand that we're all here, we're together. You know, you might be a little more left, I might be a little more right, but let's come to a conclusion and then let's work together from there.
Yeah, I think we've had an unfortunate development over the last 20 years now where it's kind of a gotcha politics, you know, and what can we do as far as partisan building up. I just read an article about Karl Rove, who was really seeing these last few years as a time when there might be momentous shifts in political support, as similar to what happened in the New Deal. But what I think he forgot was he used whatever issues came up to try and develop some partisan wedge pieces. And Roosevelt, with the New Deal, while he was partisan on certain things, a lot of it he just pushed through as what government should do. And I think if you do that, if you look at, well, what should government do? And if it is a time when people are thinking about where they'll go, if you're trying to do the right thing, you'll bring a lot of people along, as Roosevelt did back in the 30s. But if you use that time and that opportunity and you see it and you snatch it, and it's obviously partisan, I think people get turned off by that. So I think you're absolutely right.
Thank you. Yeah, I know right now in our own neighborhood, because we had a very bitter aldermanic struggle, right. And I'd like to see everybody kiss and make up and not fight again until the next aldermanic election.
Right.
But I know already the sneers I get from people and the stuff I see on the street. It's like there's somebody I passed by yesterday, and I don't want to even give a clue to his name, but I know that this guy is never going to like me ever again and is going to think I'm the most horrible, evil person in the history of the world. Well, maybe not well, he might be right. What can I say? Do citizens? How important? What about citizen involvement in the state's attorney's office? Is there a lot of that, or?
Well, we try and have a decent bit of it. We have a number of advisory councils that we meet with regularly to hear what they have to say as well as what we have to say. We have a hate crimes council that meets 2 or 3 times a year to go over what's been going on in that very important area. I go out to a number of community meetings throughout the year. We have a community outreach unit. For example, Maureen O'Brien must go out a couple of 100 times a year to meet with senior citizen groups to talk about identity theft and other issues that are important to the seniors, including the rip-offs, people coming around with the furnace and the new roof and all that kind of thing. We go out to the schools and talk to the kids at the schools about gangs. We have a special program on domestic violence. And it's a very good program to go out to the schools and tell the young people, look, if you've grown up in a household where problems are solved by dad smacking mom around, and maybe you've had a girlfriend or two where you thought that was the way to solve problems, it isn't. And then they go through some case scenarios. We've got a book that the kids read about it. And it's to tell the young people, look, maybe if your parents did this or you saw this, don't take it as the only way to solve problems. Here are some other ways. Here's the right way to do it. So you try and break that cycle, because so many of the people who abuse grew up in households where abuse took place. So we're constantly reaching out to the public to inform them and to be informed by them as to what is going on.
That makes a lot of sense, as almost everything you say does, which is, okay, we're going to definitely miss you in the state's attorney's office, but you got to take care of your family first, so I understand that.
Now's the time, yeah.
Anyway, I want to thank very much my special guest today, Dick Devine, the state's attorney of Cook County, who we've been fortunate to have him for the last 11 years or so. Right. Thank you so much for being here.
Avi, thank you for all you do.
First of all, thank you, and I want to thank my entire technical crew, Sonny Hersh, and who I produce the show with. He's got all this wonderful 2-camera equipment, the fancy new background. Dial us up on the web, ntnm.org, where you can see all these shows on the web, even if you don't live in the area. Special thanks to Mike Berry also. And join us again next week, everybody. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.